Hey, this is Robert, and thank you so much for tuning into Station Square this morning. And yeah, hoping that everybody is doing well out there. And yeah, just, enjoying this nice little summer cool down, I guess, before it really starts going back up again to like hundreds or so. But yeah, like I know we could talk about the weather, like weather conditions, all we want to, but today we just want to talk to somebody who has been in the acting business for quite some time and I'm trying to remember if I've interviewed this person or not, but regardless, this is Douglas. And yeah, just wanted to thank you so much for joining me this morning. And yeah, hope that everything's going well for you. And yeah, I'm just happy to be here. So, how are you doing?
Excellent. Thanks for having me, Robert. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, anytime. So, I guess to start this off, how is your 2025 going? And yeah, just share a little bit of everything about what you've been working on, projects, everything that you've kind of been cooking up, and we want to hear it. So,
Sure.
how's this year been for, you
It
as far
has
as work personally? Yeah, just tell us the deets.
it has been so busy, actually. I've been very blessed. We came right out of the gate, literally starting even like in the first week of January. So I've been really blessed. We've got quite a few projects that are also on the go. So let me maybe recap sort of what we've done and what's coming up. That might be kind of fun. So this year we started with something called Broken Sky, which is a really neat kind of science fiction military type movie of alien invasion proportions. So that was kind of how we started out, and it's a neat story about a satellite that the United States government picks up flying over U.S. airspace, and it turns out that it crashes, and we investigate, and it's not a satellite at all. In fact, something got out, and it's not very friendly. And of course, our job is to track it and hopefully contain it. But things don't always go according to plan. From there, when I finished that movie, I went immediately to one called Saturday Bite Fever, where I play the vampire Michael. And it's kind of a fun thing because this is the first film that I've done with my friend Simon Phillips. We've actually got three more that are right behind it. One of the ones that Simon's really well known for is participation in The Mousetrap, which is the one where they took Mickey Mouse, who is a brand new public domain character, right? Like anyone can make movies about it now. And he made the slasher movie, The Mousetrap Part One. And so I'm coming into part two with a really kind of interesting character that it's a little bit top secret, but our job is to actually contain Mickey Mouse before he ends up killing again. And it's a very dangerous movie. Now, I should mention this time around, Mickey has got Minnie by his side. So it's Mickey and Minnie who are going to create the catastrophe wherever they go. I also did a film this year called Kill Me, I'm Irish. You know the saying, Kiss Me, I'm Irish? Well, this is Kill Me, I'm Irish. And I'm the lead FBI guy investigating a series of murders that's performed generally on St. Patrick's Day, which is kind of an interesting, intriguing crime thriller. So I think everyone's going to enjoy that one. Very, very cool. But one of my big favorites that I'm actually working on, I shot for 14 days on it in Northern California. We're about to go back and do more on that. It's a film called Cowboy Bloodbath. And it's basically John Wick in the Wild Wild West, tons of incredible stunts. And it's a very incredible series of gunfights and fighting, like martial arts style fighting, all kinds of other things like it. In fact, what's really interesting, I just put on my social media a clip of me smashing some dude in the side of the head with a big old rock. And of course, it's very violent and bloody. So just viewer discretion is advised. But that's actually a franchise that we're doing, and we've signed on to do three of those. So we've got three films coming up in that John Wick tradition. My character is a bounty hunter who kind of gets mixed up in a variety of crazy and insane and very violent adventures. So we're very excited about that. And then I also am, funny enough, on signed on. I don't know how much I'm allowed to say though, to an upcoming TV series where I'll be a regular, and it's very similar in tone to, say, The Office or Parks and Rec. And so that's very different for me because I don't generally do like the comedy type characters. I'm normally either extremely violent, like hitmen, gunslingers, military, all that kind of stuff. And so this will be very, very different for me. And then I've got a film that I'm very excited about shooting in September. In fact, people who are tuning in here can even be part of this, but we're looking at breaking the Guinness Book of World's Record in a horror movie for the number of kills. And it's called Until There Is One. And I played Maxie Jinx in that. but people can have the opportunity to participate and be killed by one of their favorite horror celebrities. So we've got people like Douglas Tate in that one, who played Michael Myers and in Halloween Kills, and Jason Voorhees in Freddy versus Jason, and he's in Five Nights at Freddy's. We've got Maddie Cardripole from Stranger Things and Jurassic World and Series of Unfortunate Events. We've got people like Ron Sloan, who was in Friday the 13th, Part 5, I think it was, or Lauren Marie Taylor, who was in Part 2 and also Final Chapter. And we've got just an incredible array of people that are coming out to be part of that film. So if you want to come and get killed by your favorite horror celebrity and help us win the Guinness Book of World Records for the most kills and become part of cinematic history, this is something also that we've got going on. And then today, you're going to laugh at this. Literally an hour before you and I spoke here on this, I signed a deal to do another movie called No One Is Coming. And it's a scary movie, and Chelsea Cook is alongside me in that movie. She's a fantastic actress, and we're going to be pursued in the forest by a group of people with bad intent and guns and other weapons, and we have nothing. And like the title says, no one is coming. So we are in definite danger, and that's going to be a really cool film that we also shoot later on this year. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on. We're busy. Got lots going on. So
Yeah, that is a lot.
right,
Yeah, so I think the first thing that I kind of wanted to talk to you about is um, because you're heading up Magnificent Films, and
correct,
just talking with you about your goal to break the Guinness World Record for the highest slasher death count in a feature film. So, yeah, tell
right.
us a little bit about that, like just world records, and
Yeah.
tell us all about Magnificent Films.
So basically,
What's the
Magnificent has
potential?
been
Yeah.
around since 2007. So we've been doing films since 2007. Primarily, what we've been known for in the past is documentaries and personal development films. In fact, out of the top 10 personal development films, we own five of those positions in the top 10. Our first movie was called The Opus, and Random House picked it up also as a book in addition to a film, and they did 26 languages worldwide. So it's been absolutely phenomenal since we started. But now we're branching obviously into more narrative storytelling and a variety of things. So we've got everything from action to science fiction to horror. We've even got a couple comedy films and TV in the works with that. We partnered actually with a company that also does video games and gaming, and we've got a handful of merchandising deals too. So I think with films like Cowboy Bloodbath and things that come out, we're going to see a lot of really good success with that. Um, but let's skip now, I guess, as you asked me about the Guinness Book of World Records. So here's the thing that's kind of interesting is I was in Las Vegas walking down the strip, funny enough, with my son. And as we were there, and by the way, he's a partner in Magnificent. And as we were walking along, we just started chatting about horror movies. And we said, well, I wonder what's the most people killed in a scary movie, right? Like, what's the most people, for example, that maybe Jason is killed in a single movie or Michael Myers is killed in a single movie, and who owns that record for the most kills and how many is it? And so, of course, Google, our best friend, we hopped onto Google and we started trying to see what we could find. And we found that there is a film that has the Guinness Book of World Records for the most kills, and it's 155 people killed. And as I started talking around with friends of mine that are involved in the horror industry, it turns out that a couple of my buddies know this filmmaker who did this. And it was done in 2011, so it was quite a while ago. But one of the things that I kept hearing is that a lot of the kills that he had done were done through CGI and these kinds of things. And the story was okay, but it wasn't like life shattering. They just kind of did it for a quick grab at that title, which is fine. And I respect that. I mean, we're all artists and whatever works for you. So we decided we were going to beat that record, and we've come up with a really cool story called Until There Is One, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a minute. And we also decided we're going to do it with all practical effects. So there's no CG involved. All of the kills that you see are done old school with gallons of blood, various makeup effects, various weapons that are designed to look correct on film, and we have a minimum target of 300 people that we're going to kill. So we're going to double that record. So I think the thing that's interesting about that is that the last one has remained for over 20 years because it was 2011 and they only did 155 kills. I think we'll have this record of 300 plus for a very, very, very long time. And the story's exciting. So, I mean, the culture that we live in, first of all, we needed a good story. We wanted a good story, something that could hold up on its own, even aside from not having the kills. And kind of what we decided is looking at our society today, there's a lot of commotion around people like Mr. Beast on YouTube. Like people see that kind of guy hosting these challenges or these contests, and people come out for that. And then we saw things like Squid Game, where some of the games that you can play like this get kind of dangerous. And so we invented this story of a guy who's very much like a Mr. Beast, kind of Elon Musk. He's got all the money in the world. And you can see the trailer, by the way. It's out right now. So Until There Is One is what it's called. But this character, whose name is Maxi Jinx, he's a bit slimy. In fact, I'm the guy that plays him, which is really quite fun. And he's done all these weird kind of games and contests like Mr. Beast. But the only problem, sometimes his games get a little violent and some fatalities have occurred from time to time. And so he's introducing a new one where a person can win $1 million if you will spend one night in a locked room with a serial killer. Now, I want you to think about this for a minute. Just put yourself in those shoes. If someone said, "Here's $1 million, all you got to do is spend one night in a locked room with a serial killer," would you go for it? You never know. Maybe the serial killer doesn't have any weapons. Maybe you think you're tougher than him. Maybe you would take the million and say, "I'll split it with you if you don't hurt me for the night." Right? Like there's so many ways you could approach this, right? And so what happens is as he makes this announcement, there's 300 people plus that show up and say, "Yeah, I'll give it a go," to audition to be this person to spend a night in a locked room with a serial killer. Well, needless to say, what happens is everybody gets locked together. You don't know who the serial killer is. And they introduce it as a game. And Maxie basically says that when the lights are on, everybody has to play nice. No killing allowed. But when the lights go out for a 3 minute interval, you can do whatever you want. And from time to time, he throws in some interesting weapons, everything from box cutters to cordless drills to pickaxes to shovels to machetes to you name it, chainsaws even. But when the lights go out, anything goes. And whoever survives at the end of the night, until there is one, that person who's won, that last person will get the $1 million. And of course, he doesn't tell anybody who the serial killer is or what they're willing to do or what have you. And so it turns into an incredible bloodbath of mayhem. And that's the essence of this movie. So it's going to be really quite fun. And then, as I mentioned, we've got several major horror celebrities that are involved. So if you are a fan of horror movies, wouldn't it be fun to come out and get killed by someone who's played Michael Myers or someone who's played Jason Voorhees or, one of the cast from Stranger Things, or we've got someone coming in from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. In fact, the fellow that played Leatherface in the 2003 version. And so you could, as a fan, get killed doing that, which is kind of neat because if you go to any fan expo, I mean, everybody pays for an autograph. I get it. And you can even pay and get your picture taken with someone from that film. But have you ever been in a movie with them? So I think we've got a really unique opportunity here for people. And we're going to be filming in Canada and then also in Las Vegas in the United States. So there's two opportunities. You can either join people in Canada to do this or in the United States. So it's really quite fun.
So for Until There Is One, what is the whole concept of, like, did the idea just kind of, was it kind of like the brainchild of yourself, or what? It's kind of like a huge collaborative effort to just really pull this
Mm,
just have it just all come together into the to how it's going to be turning out to be, because you said you're going to be starting filming this fall. So is it kind of just like a big collaborative effort into what it's going to be like, in the finished product and what you're going to be expecting to see coming out of it in the future? So yeah, just tell us a little bit more about, you know, just the production process, because I know you've
right.
talked about having a lot of guest stars and people that have done a lot of horror and all that stuff. So yeah, just tell us more about, the overall concept of the history behind it, the genesis, and how it just kind of grew into the concept that it is today, so on and so forth. And yeah, if you're willing to I
Yeah,
mean, if you're willing
100%.
to share more, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So some of that we've already gone into about how
Okay.
we came up with it and what the story is. But here's the thing with movies. All movies are a collaborative effort, right? If you think about it, you've got the cast, you've got the crew, you've got the screenwriters, you've got, the special effects department, you've got the editors after the effect, you've got everybody involved. So all movies are a collaboration. But I'm the principal writer on the story and the concept behind it. And then we've actually just brought on some people that we trust that are incredibly talented. So, yes, the cast, we've talked about those celebrity actors as well, but we've also got a really good crew that has been involved in a lot of practical special effects to be able to make things look effective and correct. I've also got part of our team coming on that's helped us with some other movies that we produce and put together. And then I've got a really great crew. In fact, it's two different crews. Kind of the heads of those departments, but obviously some of the people are the same both in Canada and the US. So it really is a collaborative effort when we're making film. But here's the thing that I think is important. And if there's filmmakers that are listening that are, building their own movies, they kind of know how challenging it can be at times to make a movie because you've got so many moving parts, right? So many things that need to be put in place. And so, one of the things that we pride ourselves on is we hire the very best people that we can find for each of those different positions. And because you put the best people in those positions, it ups the quality and the level of your film. So, for example, even with our casting director, the person that is the principal casting director, she was actually the casting director on shows like Hell on Wheels for AMC. She was the casting director on Shanghai Noon and Shanghai Nights with Jackie Chan and Owen Wilson. She did, I think it was 17 seasons of Heartland, which is a big television show in Canada. And she's just done countless other films. She's done over 300 movies. And so the reality is we take this very seriously. We don't want to just kind of show up and roll the dice and hope we get a good movie. The truth of the matter is if you up level all the different people that are involved in supporting it, that collaboration then becomes something that is worth watching and very strong. So I think that for us, the biggest thing that we wanted to do is if we're going to take a crack at making cinema history, we want to have a movie that raises the bar, that takes everything to the higher level. And anyone who participates in it, first of all, yes, it's a good experience as a fan. I think that that's awesome to show up as a fan, but we wanted to give something more than that because I think that if you are interested in movies and who knows, maybe even looking at this as a career possibility, like maybe you want to be an actor or maybe you want to be involved in filmmaking in some capacity, it makes more sense to create something that almost is like a springboard. So let's call this almost like film school, right? And not only film school, but those who participate, it's not like going to acting class where, okay, here you go, you act it or whatever. No, at the end, you actually get a movie that you're part of. You get something that you can use as a demo reel. You've got IMDb credits out of it. You've got, again, maybe some stills that are out of it. And you've got some experience that you can take to the next movie that you go to. So for us, we're always about creating those quality projects and giving, not only the people participating a good experience, but even the audiences that are going to watch it. We want them to have something that they're going to be excited about, that they'll be able to tell their friends about. And obviously, if you're in it, you can have bragging rights to tell your family and friends and stuff that you're also in a film. So we really do collaborate at those higher levels. And so I think that that's kind of an important thing to consider when making a movie.
Yeah. Because I know that once again, there's a lot that goes into behind the scenes of everything that
Mm,
you're working on. And yeah, there's so much like preparation, collaborate. You gotta make sure that all the actors are, in one place. And yeah, it's a lot. So trust me, it's like a whole different can of worms altogether. So
right.
I definitely do want to also talk about your other big project, which is Cowboy Bloodbath. So
Right.
yeah, just tell us more about, what kind of like Until There Is One, just tell us more about Cowboy Bloodbath and, because it's going to be coming out. Actually, I think it just came out on Apple TV. So yeah, just tell us about that whole experience and yeah, just share with us about
Sure, sure.
cowboys and, blood.
Right. So it's funny because growing up, like I'm from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and we have shot a lot of Western movies here. In fact, I can't even remember what the first Western I did, but one of the most significant Westerns I was involved in was Open Range with Kevin Costner, Robert Duvall, Annette Bening, Michael Jeter, Diego Luna is in it. In fact, you remember from Andor and stuff like that. So that was one of my first big cowboy movies. I was a part of it, and I had a chance to do some stunt work and um, doubling for some of the bigger actors that were in the film, and it was just a really good experience. But through my career, I've done tons of cowboy movies. My city is known for that. So I've done everything from horseback riding to stunts and stuff on other cowboy movies as well. And I guess I've always kind of had a little bit of a fascination for cowboy movies, right? My dad used to love them and he'd watch them all the time. So sitting with my dad on a lazy Saturday afternoon watching John Wayne was kind of a fun thing to do, right? And so when we had this idea around Cowboy Bloodbath, which funny enough didn't start as a movie, it started actually as a comic book. We decided that we wanted to do something really kind of violent because we like this idea of, a gunfight like is never a pretty thing, right? But what about, having a gunfight where you've got somebody that is taking on these impossible odds? So it's not a clean one-on-one, let's, do a gunfight at noon, high noon kind of thing or whatever, and all that kind of stuff. We wanted to have something where it was literally a guy on a rampage, but we wanted to make it also something where we felt empathy and sympathy for the character. So obviously along the way, I played a lot of gunfighters, I played a lot of military guys, I played hitmen, I played all these kind of things, and we decided, what if we had a character that was in some ways the reluctant hero? He no longer wants to do a violent job. He wants to escape that life. He's got guilt and grief about the challenges that he's created. And so my character, who's only known by the name the Cowboy, he basically is an ex bounty hunter. He used to pull people in and collect the bounties on them, either dead or alive. He's very good at what he does, but it's time to hang up the guns. He's no longer interested. So kind of like Clint Eastwood in Unforgiven a little bit, right? He's no longer, that's not his game anymore. And he continually gets dragged back to fight. It's just the whole universe is conspiring always to put him in these dangerous situations where people need to get killed, and he's the guy to do it. And so, having done that as a comic that was successfully received, and we've got a couple of other, areas where we've tried to work with that character, the cowboy. We were actually approached by a company in the United States that wanted to do a co-production as a movie. And we've got, I'm not allowed to really say, but we've got a fairly significant distributor that we're talking to right now. So the project will also receive a theatrical release. And as you said, there's streaming services that are doing deals with us on it too. So you can find it online as well. And we've also got a deal for a video game on it called with a company called NeoJack Entertainment. And it's also set up to be a three-picture deal. So there'll be three films to start with. Now, who knows? Maybe we'll do kind of like what you see with John Wick, where they have offshoot characters from the franchise, or they do more and more and more of these films. I think it's a fun character to play. So I'm willing to do as many as they'll have me do. And of course I played the cowboy in it, which is pretty neat. So I get a chance to use a lot of my stunts, my experience in stunts. There's a lot of interesting fist fights and gun fights and unique fights that are in the film that you just haven't seen in other Western movies. And then one of the things that's kind of cool is just last week or so, I had one of my friends, John Ozuna, and I encourage you guys to look him up on IMDb. The guy's done tons of stunts as well. He's a really incredible, accomplished martial artist, just an incredible guy. But I had a chance to bash my friend in the face with a rock, and that kills him in the movie. So he and I go 1-to-1, but it ends with me kicking him out in the head with a rock. And you can, funny enough, see that clip on either my Instagram or TikTok right now. We kind of let that one leak out. But I have to confess, that's not the most violent kill in the movie. It's just a cool one. And it was fun to upside my friend by the side of his head. Crack, take that, right? So, yeah, I think it's going to be a really fun project. And the love interest that I have in that film is a cute girl by the name of Kirsten Norman. And she's super fun to work with. And in it, you'll see kind of her growth and her arc as a character as well, where she goes from this kind of saintly Christian type girl in the Wild West to somebody who isn't afraid to shoot somebody point blank as well. And I think it's kind of a a neat story, a really fun story. So we're excited about it. It's going to be cool.
And since it kind of came out, like, what was something that you really found to be so, like, what would you say was kind of like the most, you know, something that you can kind of say that you really took the most out of, like, the biggest learning experience? Like, was it something that's particularly exciting, something that's heartfelt, or I don't know, just
Hmm.
getting to work on something like Cowboy Bloodbath, or just anything that you really got out of, working on that, and until there's one, and all these other projects that you're kind of been talking with me
Yeah,
about
I
today.
I think it's interesting, and every project has unique stuff that are either challenges or things that are just fun and unique, right? Like every project brings something to it, and so whenever I get approached by a project, I guess one of the questions sometimes people ask me is how do you choose the projects that you pick? Why would you pick that movie versus say something else? And I think that question is always answered first by I say yes to only the movies that I personally would want to see. So as we looked at the script on say Cowboy Bloodbath, I knew this was a movie I would watch. If it was in the theater, I'm going to watch that, right? And that's kind of the fun of it. And the other thing that's always kind of exciting about these movies is not just making them. Like we definitely have fun making them. There's a lot of creative and artistic ideas that go into making it, and a lot of new things that we try that maybe haven't been seen in other movies before, so that we have a fresh, kind of unique look on things. But I think one of the other fun things about it is when we get to share that uniqueness with the world. And one of my favorite things is going to the premieres of these movies where we can share them with a live audience, with a group that's there. And sometimes when we're making it, we create certain things and we're like, that'll be so cool. The audience will love that. And then we're nervous because then when we show it to them for the first time, we're like, do they get it? Did they get it? Did they get what we're hoping to share? Like, or there's a joke. Did they get the joke? Or with the violence, did we get that reaction? But what a blessing it is when you're, with a whole audience and suddenly one of the things that you wanted to have everybody go, they do. Right? They do. And so that's one of my favorite parts is at the premieres, just seeing kind of like sharing it for the first time and seeing how people respond to it. And I think that's probably I guess one of the reasons that we make movies, right? Because we're a culture or community of storytellers. And why do we tell stories? It's because we want to entertain, right? We want to share. And it's funny because if you look at even like Tom Cruise with Mission Impossible, I think this is a great example. And I think it's always cool to see how excited he gets about the movies that he's sharing and that he's created. And I can understand that because I've had those same emotions. And I think that that's also what endears us to him and what makes him such a fun person to watch on film is we know he's having a fun time making these movies. Right? We know that they're going to be just a fun ride that we're all going to enjoy. So I try to bring the same things to the films that I'm creating as well.
Yeah. Like when you watch him on something like Mission Impossible or View Goodman with Jack Nicholson and yeah, or Demi Moore and so many
Right.
different actors that he's worked alongside with. And when you get to listen to interviews or just watch the whole process of just how he becomes the character in these films, it's like, man, it's oh, and of course we all know, does he do his own stunts? Well, I mean, hey, it kind of speaks for itself, but you can just tell how much fun that he's having whenever he works on these films.
100%.
Yeah. So, what would you say is kind of like the most, since we're kind of on this subject, what do you say is the most exciting part for you when it comes to making these movies, or just acting, direct, just doing a lot of the stuff that you're kind of done over the years, so on and so forth.
Wow. Well, of course, since we're on the topic of stunts, I always love
Yes,
doing
done. Yeah, yeah.
the stunts for sure. And I've done some pretty cool stunts. I think a couple of my favorite moments of stunts. Um, One of my favorites was jumping from a motorcycle to a Hummer at about 60 kilometers an hour with no safety mechanisms involved. That was pretty neat.
Oh,
And
word.
there's pictures of that on my Instagram as well. Uh, Another one that I really enjoyed is we did a full body burn where they lit me on fire, and the fellow that lit me on fire was Adam Richards, who is the original Red Power Ranger. So it was kind of cool. I got lit on fire by one of the Power Rangers, which is pretty cool. I also had a really cool experience when we did the signal, hanging out of the side of a helicopter, shooting a machine gun and grenade launcher at a bunch of people down below, blah, blah, blah. But I was hanging literally up the side of it with with kind of a unique harness that was equipped to kind of keep me in, but not really, right? Because you can't put a seatbelt on. Heroes can't sit down and put a seatbelt on. So we had to find a different way to do it. And then, of course, I've had all kinds of neat fights. Actually, one of my favorites is I was the bad guy in a movie called Black Creek, which was a Cynthia Rothrock movie with lots of big martial artists like Don the Dragon Wilson was in it, Keith Cook, who you might know from Mortal Kombat, like just a ton of these really cool guys. And one of my favorite experiences was getting kicked in the face by Cynthia Rothrock in that movie at the end. And so that was it's super fun, right? Like we're just having a good time, and we're buddies to this day. So it's just pretty awesome. But stunts is a very exhilarating and exciting part of the movies that I do. But in addition to just doing the stunts, again, it's when we get a chance to share that with the audiences, right? When they can see us, taking a punch and it looks great, or falling off of a building, or going through a car windshield, or whatever it is that we're going to do. It's fun, right? It's interesting. And the reality is, I'm still here. So obviously, I didn't get that hurt. But when you're doing stunts with a team, there's also an element of planning that's involved and risk management that's involved. In fact, there's a movie coming up that I thought this was also fun. I enjoyed working with the stuntman on this film. But it's called Fresh Meat. Daniel Tours does it. I play the sheriff in it. Rudy Bellamy is my name. And I don't know if I should give this away, but I get decapitated at one point in the film. And just the way that they set that up and they did it, and with the gags and the other elements of the visual effects, it was just really fun to do that. And so, yeah, those are some of my favorite parts in film. It's the movie magic of it, right? Because when I was raised as a kid, those are the things watching movies. I was like, wow, how did they do that? And it was fascinating for me to learn that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I'm always having a good time with that element of filmmaking. But everything else is cool too. Like, there's just so many things to filmmaking that are fun. I mean, even working with some of my heroes and people that I admired over the years, and then finally becoming friends with them and working on a movie with them has been really, really cool. And we just, you meet other actors and you form great relationships with them, and then you learn from each other, and it improves the craft. And when you get really good actors, it just ups everybody's game. And I'm grateful for that part of things too. So, do I have one favorite thing about working in movies? No. Many favorite things? Heck yeah. I love it because I love movies, right?
Yeah, and it just really shows from just us talking right now because you got all these posters of like
Oh, I
Maryland
got
and
lots
Stephen
more
and
around me
Buckhorn.
too.
Karen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So would you say that those are like some of the ones that influenced, like inspired you in a way? Like if you have like any specific,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a
like that
great
really
question.
inspired your storytelling. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess here's something interesting, and this is maybe a plug for film school or film programs. The reality is, as a kid when I was raised, there were certain movies that I was drawn to. Obviously, like everybody else, you love the big blockbusters, Star Wars or Marvel movies, or Back to the Future or Raiders of the Lost Ark, or these movies that make an impact that we really love these movies, and I do love those movies. But as soon as I went to film school, there was one specific class that I took when I was in college called film analysis. And film analysis had us watch about 100 movies in one semester, but they weren't movies that I would have normally picked. So there was a lot of foreign films that were there. There was a lot of old films, even prior to the 1950s and 1940s, old black and white films. There were, films by really well-known directors that most people had never seen, like some early works from people like Martin Scorsese or Francis Ford Coppola, or even earlier ones from George Lucas, like THX 1138. Just films that I hadn't seen. And it just opened my eyes to the world of movie making. And there was a lot of movies there that have since become my favorite movies. And I never would have been exposed to them. So here's, I guess, a little bit of advice. If you're listening and you're either wanting to be an actor or a filmmaker or in the film industry in any capacity, I think it's important that you watch as many movies as you can, because there are some, what is it? It's like basketball. If you want to do some trick shots, you don't start there, you learn with the basics. and you have to become well versed on how the game of basketball is played, and you've got to learn those basic skills before you could move on to advanced stuff. And so one of the ways that I recommend that you get good at filmmaking is you need to understand who came before, and not just American films. American films are great, and I do love them, but American films are actually influenced by the whole global market. And some of my favorite films of all time, in fact, come from Asia or Europe. Especially, I love Italian films. I really love Italian films and French films from the whole French Nouveau movement, or even some of the German Impressionistic films in the beginning. I mean, these are films that just changed the world. And if you don't have those in your toolbox, if you don't understand those forms of storytelling, I think that you're really lacking in the ability to take your filmmaking to the next level as far as creativity goes. You need to be able to absorb all that stuff. And I mean, maybe one of these days I should do this. I should publish a list of the top 100 films that I find valuable. Very much like what Quentin Tarantino has done in his book as well. He's talked about a variety of films that have influenced him over the years. And tell you the truth, he's got a lot of really cool ones there that I'd never seen, but just because he recommended them, I watched them and they became interesting to me too, among my favorites. And there's a whole genre of films, even through the 1970s, even exploitation films, which he and Robert Rodriguez have, really kind of brought to light with films like Machete and some of his, I mean, Death Proof and all these other films. Like they're great films, but they have that vibe about them, right? But I guess what I'm saying is you can't create like that unless you've had a chance to have exposure to that. And so, yeah, I mean, there's just so many amazing films. I could go on forever and ever and ever. And by the way, even these here behind us on the end, I don't know if you can see that. That's North by Northwest. I think it's one of the greatest action venture spy movies ever made. In fact, Cary Grant was originally they wanted him for the original James Bond before they wanted Sean Connery, but he would sign to do a multi-picture deal. And some of the elements from this film actually influenced James Bond's further pictures. And again, I'm a big James Bond fan, so we could talk about their Bullet, one of the best car chases that ever happened in the history of movies. It's incredible. And by the way, Steve McQueen did a lot of his own driving in that movie, which is just fantastic. And by the way, I might mention one of the reasons I've always loved Steve McQueen is when I was a little boy, my dad was watching The Great Escape and I couldn't sleep. And I had school the next day, and my dad let me come down and watch Great Escape with him at like 2 in the morning and share jelly beans. And by the way, my dad kind of looked like Steve McQueen. So that's always been a special movie. And then, of course, who doesn't love Marilyn, right? 7 Year Itch is a great movie. I've also got How to Marry a Millionaire over there across the room. And then something that's kind of funny is over there, I've even got a poster for King Creole, the Elvis Presley movie. Something that's kind of fun is actually Elvis is a cousin of mine. So these are some things that I got from his karate gi, the patches that were on his actual outfit, and one of them he signed. So you can learn from all kinds of movies. I know some people didn't think Elvis did a lot of great movies, but he did do quite a few really good movies. The thing that I think most people need to understand is Elvis's movies were done within Elvis's brand, right? So I think that's another thing we need to understand. If you're a filmmaker or an actor, you need to recognize what your brand is. And a great way to do that is to watch the history of movies, right? You can start seeing that there's certain, let's call them archetypes or even stereotypes, actors that people fall into those categories in certain stories. And once you understand kind of where you fit in the filmmaking world, suddenly things can take off for you, right? People begin to know you for those things, and that's what they expect. Again, we talked about Tom Cruise. I mean, if you look through the 90s, he did all these shows like Cocktail and Days of Thunder. Yes, Top Gun was included in there. But he was building a Tom Cruise brand. And now if we look at Tom Cruise's brand with Mission Impossible, it's a completely different thing as well, right?
Yeah. So I think we'll most likely have to conclude it in the finale coming up in the next part. So if you want to see more, feel free to stick around, and I'll see you all in the finale coming shortly. Have a good one. You. Hey everyone, and welcome to the finale of our Douglas interview. So, I think the only thing that we can really close out with is any last bit of advice or just anything that you want to close out this interview on. Just advice to anybody that's aspiring to get into this, and just last bit of wisdom that you like to, I guess pass on to others, if you may.
Sure, sure. I guess one of the things that I think is important to point out. So, a lot of my background with the documentaries that we did is in personal development, right? In fact, we just had a movie drop. You can find it on any of the major streaming services called How Thoughts Become Things. And one of the reasons I kind of want to finish with that is because the truth of the matter is if you want to expand what you have in your life, you must expand who you are. And so if you want to become an actor, if you want to become a filmmaker, if you want to, start a business, if you want to be an entrepreneur, no matter what it is, you have to expand who you are to be able to expand what you have. And I think this idea of learning from everywhere that you can, getting information from wherever you can, getting connections wherever you can. I think that's an important thing, right? We cannot passively wait for somebody to invite us to where we want to go. If you want to be an actor, you've got to be aggressive and you've got to decide this is what you want to do. You need to make that life decision and then start taking action that will lead you closer to that outcome. Same thing if you want to be a filmmaker or whatever it is, fill in the blank. What can you do today? Now, there's a saying that I love that says if you want to see the size of your success, or the size of your success rather, is based on the size of your butt. Now, what does that mean? The size of your butt determines the size of your success. I'm not talking the butt that you're sitting on. I'm talking about the excuses that you make. So if you want to be an actor and you say, I want to be an actor, but it's really hard. Well, that's a big but. But I don't have enough time. That's a really big but. But it needs money. That's a big but too. Or but I don't know enough people. All these times you use the word but, that shrinks the kind of success you're ever going to have. You got to remember that excuses never created anything, ever. So if you want to be a filmmaker, quit making excuses. Everybody has a phone. You could start today. You can make a movie. If you want to be an actor, there's tons of opportunities around us everywhere. You just need to get out and start chasing those opportunities. So the advice that I would share with you, a lot of people ask me, why am I so busy in film? It's because I get busy in life, right? You got to go out and you got to make your own way. You make your own luck. And what's a saying that I've heard one time? It says that when your ship doesn't come in, maybe it's time to swim out to it. Right? So that's the advice that I'd give you. There's a ton of opportunities out there. The world is waiting to hear your voice, to see your art in the world. It's waiting to see you participate. But the only one that can make that happen is you. Don't wait for permission. Go get it. It's waiting for you.
Yeah. And in all the years that you've been doing this, what would you say is the moment that really kind of made you decide to completely lock in on a lot of the stuff that you're doing? Just any experience or it could just be a couple, but
Mm.
what would you say was kind of like the most significant that really changed your life for the better, that you really just feel so beyond blessed and grateful to just still continue
You're
doing?
right. I've got a lot of those, and to tell you the truth, they still occur regularly. I still have those moments all the time, saying you're on the right track, and this is what gets you excited. And this is one of the ways you can tell if you're on the right path. If you're continually getting excited for the industry that you're in, if you're continually getting excited for the movies that you're doing, you're on the right step. If you're getting bored, if you're saying, I don't know if this is worth it for me, and I don't know, and you're discouraged or whatever, and it's not working for you, you might be on the right path. There might or wrong path. There might be something better for you out there than what you're doing. So I think you constantly need something that gets you excited and keeps you on that path. Now, I'm not saying you're not going to have hard days. I'm not going to saying that it won't be difficult from time to time. But what I am saying is you better love it enough that when those difficult times come, because they do for every industry and every career, you got to love it enough that you can stay focused and keep going. Now, let me share a cool story that did happen to me that was really kind of neat. So, a handful of years ago, I had a chance to go on a tour of the Paramount Picture Studios when I was a kid in California. And we went there and they put you on this golf cart and they drive around, and they show you the different movie sets. And at times, there's actors that are actually working, making a movie right there. And I remember I could see them, and the guy who was leading the tour said to us, he said, sometimes those actors are able to come over and say hello. But that day they didn't. But in my heart, I was like, wow, one of these days, this is the industry I'm going to work in. And I set that as my goal, and I set that in my heart. One of these days, I'm going to be right back here at the Paramount Picture Studios, and I'm going to shoot a movie here. Well, funny enough, fast forward a couple years later, I was doing a series there called Mafia Spies. And by the way, you can see Mafia Spies right now on Paramount Plus. I play the lead FBI guy on that. And while we were shooting on the Paramount Studios lot, all of a sudden one of those little golf carts from the tour came around. And on that, there were people that, were looking to see the behind the scenes of movies and that kind of thing. And while we were there, our director allowed us to go over and say hi. So I went over there and said hi. And funny enough, I found a boy that was about the same age as I was when I did the tour for the first time. And he told me that he wanted to be in movies and he wanted to one day be an actor. And literally, again, that was me. What, 10 years earlier, 15 years earlier, something like that. So what an interesting experience it was to go full circle. And as you can imagine, I encouraged that kid. I said, "You got to do it. If this is what you want, you got to do it." And so it was just kind of neat to see that thing become full circle. So that was a special experience to me, and it reminded me that I was in the right place where I needed to be. And it's still such a neat thing. So when we go to, like, I go to the fan expos and I sign autographs at tables and, and meet fans and stuff. It's so interesting to hear the stories of how movies that I've been in have emotionally touched other people, that they've enjoyed the stories, that they've become a significant part of their life, that it's been something that they've enjoyed, and I made that difference. And so I love it when I can meet fans, and I love it when, and in fact, I call them friends because I don't think they're just fans because we both like the same movie. Remember, I don't do movies I wouldn't want to be in, and they've watched the movie that I'm in that they also enjoyed, which tells me that if we happen to meet somewhere like outside a movie setting, we would be friends because we love the same stuff, right? So I'm always excited to see when there's, a connection like that with people, and every time I run into somebody that loves the movies that I'm in and it turns out we love a lot of the same movies. It inspires me to keep going and to keep making good movies. And that's one of my favorite parts of this business is I'm involved in a very fun storytelling process that a lot of people just dig and enjoy, including myself. So I feel blessed.
Yeah, that's the best attitude to have when you're working in the business.
Right.
Because I've been doing this for about close to 8 years, just either if I'm behind a microphone or just, helping out others with their projects. And I'm actually even creating my own stuff right now. So it's
Cool.
just, just having these insane ideas and then just putting it into reality is kind of like one of the best things you could possibly do. Especially when, you know, if everything seems like it's completely against you, what is something that you could do to not let it completely overwhelm you? This is why a lot of the best stuff that is being made ends up being made, whether it's most of the times, whether it's out of spite or just, because the actor or somebody just has this really unique voice and they just want it, like you said, just putting it out there for the world to see. And you
Right.
just never know what's gonna happen if you don't put your best foot forward. That's pretty much what I would want to leave. What the last bit of advice that I would want to close and leave everybody with is just do it. I know it's so simple, like
100%.
Nike, but it's so true. Like sometimes the simple stuff, like the most simple advice, can end up being the most enlightening, or it could just be the most
Right.
powerful. You just never know
Definitely true.
if you just don't take the first step. That's what I would say to close us out on.
I definitely agree. I think that I'm 100% behind you on that.
Yeah. So if you were to share your socials and
Yep.
just any of the webs, yeah, just link your stuff and so people can check out your work. Like you mentioned, Instagram, TikTok. So where can people check out your stuff?
I'd say those are the best places because we do share the most there, but it's Douglas Vermeeren. And you can find me again on TikTok, Instagram. I know there's a Facebook group that's there. And certainly if you Googled me, you'd find all kinds of connections. But yeah, Instagram is and TikTok are probably where we're sharing the most. I try to do videos behind the scenes and take people onto the set and show them some of the things that we're doing. So yeah, I mean, if you follow me there, you're definitely going to get some behind the scenes exposure to what we're creating. So
Yeah, and the same goes for websites, so on and so forth.
yeah, alldouglasvermeeren.com. You can find me at all those places.
Nice. And any last words that you wanna like, I don't know, anything else that you wanted to say to all those that are Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess
Just what
we'll
would your last
finish.
words be? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we'll finish by saying go watch some movies. And if you can, watch them in the theater because that's where they were designed to be shown. When you watch a movie as a community with a community experience with a bag of popcorn, it's much cooler than watching it on your phone at home. So get out there and watch a movie and be part of a group watching a movie. They were designed to be watched as a community, and I think that's the best way to watch movies.
Exactly. So for the outro that I usually do for the podcast, you can say your name, name the projects that you've been a part of. And this is Station Square Podcast with me, Robert Jackson. If you're up
Cool.
for it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, everybody, this is the Square Podcast with Robert Jackson. My name is Douglas Vermeeren. You probably know me from shows like Mafia Spies, Fresh Meat, Broken Sky. Goodness sakes, how many other movies do we want to list here? Tenants, Black Creek, Cowboy Bloodbath. I've done a ton of movies, but I'm so much having so much fun. But make sure you tune into this podcast. We're going to talk about movies and a little bit about some of the behind the scenes stuff. And also, believe it or not, how you can get involved in a movie that we've got coming up where we're going to break the Guinness Book of World Records and create cinematic history. So come join us. We look forward to seeing you soon.
There you go.
Easy
And
peasy.
on that note, I'm Robert Jackson. This is Station Square Podcast, and I'll see y'all next time. And until then, keep creating, stay awesome, and yeah, God loves you. Have a good one, folks. Bye bye.